Good evening here in the UK, and good afternoon to all those across the pond. Matt Griffiths, one of the resident coaches here. I put a post up recently about some of the modern terminology and phrases that are being used and thrown around and what they really mean, because there's an increasing number, I've noticed, of guys coming in, particularly coaches writing things, none of our resident coaches might add, writing things using terminology in an effort to sound like they know something about a situation. Now, Einstein was known to quote, if somebody can't, this is a paraphrasing here because it might not be the exact quote, but if somebody can't explain a subject simply enough for people to understand, then they do not understand the subject well enough. Hello to people that are starting to pop online. So with that in mind, I covered a couple that came up, but if anyone is watching and wants to know what any of them actually mean, or just to blow them open, because I don't see why everyone's trying to make this so complicated for you guys. And then I will also give you a little insight into one that is commonly misused, the phrase DOMS, D-O-M-S, and I will give you the actual meaning of that, which is not delayed onset muscle soreness, despite what you may read all over the internet. There was a name for it that predated this, and I'm very surprised if anyone knows what it is. But if you do, fantastic. Now, the ones I brought up in my post were very straightforward. You had the AMRAP, which has sort of come about with the intersection of CrossFit, as many reps as possible. Now, going back, we used to just call that failure, or max reps, for example. But no, they've given it, I'm going to do this AMRAP today, I'm going to do these AMRAPs. It trains failure then? Okay, just making it sound cool. The big one on the deadlift that's come out lately seems to be the buzz phrase going around. Even on a recent video on here, I saw it. I was tagged and asked to review. As many of you may know, I've worked with some of the best deadlifters in the world, and I'm in the 800-pound deadlift club myself. And straight away, there's some coach on there going, you need to work on your hip hinge, your hip hinge, your hip hinge on this. And it's just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Hip hinge. All it simply means is engaging the glutes and quadriceps, fucking the bar. That's what we used to explain it to people. Literally just drive your hips into that bar. No, you must work on your hip hinge. Let me show you the activation sequence for this using bands and chains, etc., etc. Once they start doing that, they're talking absolute nonsense to you. It does not need to be that complex. Absolute load of rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. Is there any from anybody that's watching that would like explained? We get a lot of different phrases that get used because there are a lot of scientific phrases. And sometimes people may have seen the podcast that was recently on my personal profile in my own group. It is nice to have a mental flex with some of these phrases out there. Start talking about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Start talking about, your maximum recovery rate. Start talking about your relative ground force. But to most people, if I was to turn around and say, well, we're going to check out what your MRV is while examining the shear force across your cruciate ligaments and the MCLs, while checking out the distribution across your RGF. Effectively what I'm saying is that I'm checking your technique to make sure you don't pop a knee and you're not lifting your heel up on a squat. It's how you put it across to people. You can put it across to try and make yourself sound as clever as you want, but if you can't simply explain it to somebody, you just don't know your subject matter. I'm sorry, I'm going to start calling out the coaches on this one, because most guys that are coming into this group, this is to me very akin to going to a car garage when you're not really that savvy about automotive engineering, going in and they're sort of looking at you, and it just reminds me of that scene from The Mask when he comes out going, what the hell is this? And I don't know, about $500. And it's that sort of thing where they're trying to baffle you with stuff to make themselves seem like there's something else. But it really doesn't need to be that impressive. So, DOMS. As it's commonly referred to, delayed onset muscle soreness. Or as most people know it as, I'm aching. But what was the original meaning? Let's give a few people a chance, see if anyone's got any ideas. Anyone that's on here got any clues what these letters actually stand for? No? No one wants to jump the gun. Since I've mentioned that it doesn't mean delayed onset muscle soreness, people are probably like, hang on a second, that's what I've always thought. And you're not in any way wrong to think that, because most times, most sources you will find, I mean, you'd have to dig ridiculously deep to find the meaning. I know of it from so long ago. And it gets used that much. And this is what happens. These phrases get used so much, they actually almost get taken on, but that's how language develops. But they're sort of overcomplications of what they actually are. But we're going to reverse engineer that one slightly, because this one is a little bit more complicated than simply being sore. That's not what it means at all. So I'll be very, very interested. I'll give a couple of minutes yet to see if anyone's got any clue as to what DOMS actually stands for. In fact, do you know what? I'll give you a couple of minutes. If anyone comes through and can tell me what it actually means, I don't know why I'm holding an Allen key, I've just put it on the table, I like to fiddle. If anyone can tell me what it means, I'll give them a free 12-week in-depth training course with my patented success schematic. That's how confident I am that no one's going to know what it is. Anyone? James, Ronnie, Phil? Anybody like to take a guess? It's a good one. No, we've still got no... That is what people say it is, Justin, but that isn't what the original meaning actually is. That is the meaning that has now been popularised, and it is actually used now in some medical text. But it wasn't where the original phrase came from. I will tell you what the original phrase actually means, and I will explain it to you, and the moment I do, you'll go, oh, that makes sense. I'll give you the first letter, shall I? The first letter. Not that it really gives anything away. It's almost similar, the first word. It has a very, very similar meaning. You have delayed for the delayed onset muscle soreness, and the actual D that comes on. There we go, another one coming up with the same one. That is, again, Michael, that is what people think it is, but it is not what it actually means. And as I said, you really struggle to find this information anywhere. This really dates back. I'll give you the D. I'll give you the D. That sounds like a stop flirting with me moment. Sorry about that, gentlemen. The D stands for deferred. Deferred. Anyone else? I'm just being a cocky know-it-all now, aren't I, knowing this sort of thing? But anyway, I will give you the actual meaning. Deferred means very similar to delayed. It's something that's not happening immediately. It has been deferred for a period of time. And in the meanings that's been put on here, we have onset. So the beginning of, but that's not quite what it means. In the other one, it is something is being deferred. But what post-training causes your muscles to ache could be deferred. It is a scientific word. I'm not sure anyone's going to know what it is, but I'll give it to you. Actually, I'll give you the S. I'll give you the S. We won't give away too much. I won't give you away too much. So the D is deferred, and the S, rather than being soreness, as we've done this, is actually synthesis. Okay, synthesis. So you've got deferred something synthesis. What could the O and the M actually mean? I'm not very good at this, master of deception. I just want to tell you anyway. So deferred, okay, not onset. It's deferred osmosis. Osmosis, a fluid passing through a semi-permeable membrane, becoming something more viscose or dense on the other side. Osmosis. Deferred osmosis of something synthesis. The third word is very similar. It's a simplified version of, in this one, you've got delayed onset muscle soreness. It does refer to the muscle. But what this is talking about is effectively a delay in absorbing Something's passing through a semi-permeable membrane into a particular part of the muscle for it to be synthesized. No? Okay, I'll give you the whole one. DOMS, D-O-M-S, does not mean delayed onset muscle soreness. Does not. It actually means, you ready? Bit of a drum roll. Deferred osmosis of myofibril synthesis. Okay? Deferred osmosis of myofibril synthesis. This means it is a delayed response for a fluid carrying nutrients passing through a semi-permeable membrane into the myofibril strands, which are the protein-based strands of muscle that give you strength, that build the muscle up, that contain the sarcoplasmic fluid and everything else. Synthesis. So it's synthesizing the chemical energy that's coming from food and the bloodstream into the muscle to repair it. Deferred osmosis of myofibril synthesis. There is one for free. Now I've actually explained it, you're probably going, yeah, that makes actual sense. That does actually make more sense as to why someone will come up with a DOMS rather than just saying aching. It did come from something, and that's where it was, and that's why I am Yoda. So it's one of those things that I know because I'm a very, very geeky, nerdy type character, despite my appearance, and I do like learning everything I can about things. But I have studied under some of the great Russian coaches, such as Boris Shiko, and you do pick things up. And I am very much a geek and a sponge for those kind of things. So that's the one for today, the big one. I'd wager most of the coaches don't know that. Deferred osmosis of myofibril synthesis. I'm curious now. I've done this on a live video on a relatively big group. I am curious to see how quickly this spreads. How many people start saying this now. Going back to what we were saying about people throwing around phrases, etc., to make themselves seem something better than they are. Because effectively what it does mean is it's like an uptake into your muscle and you ache. And that is all it is. It's just a repairing system. There's nothing fancy about it. It's just got a fancy scientific name, just like everything else has when you build it. You know, you don't turn around and say, everyone chucks around hypertrophy or hypertrophy, depending on where you're from. It's to grow, it's to this. And then we could go, yeah, well, that's sarcoplasmic, not myofibril. Blah, 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 blah. Start throwing these things in. But effectively, it means to get bigger or to get stronger. That's how it is. That's how it should be. And if a coach can't give it you in a very, very simple term that you can understand, that you can apply and you can make relative, what is the point of that coach? I could come out to many of you people, and no offence to anybody, but I could come out and baffle you with the lexicon of my particular trade. And I am 100% sure, some of you guys out there, some of the IT specialist engineers, etc., you could do exactly the same to me. Exactly the same to me. But is that what you're out there trying to do? Of course it's not. So that's the one for tonight, guys. By all means, as ever, drop me any lines with any queries, drop some questions through. All the coaches are always here to help you out. But there's the little snippet for tonight, exclusive to Dad Bod Transformation. And I'll be interested. You throw that one around. Throw it around as a mental flex when you want to shut somebody up. Because you'd be surprised how many... Well, most people do not know that, basically. So that's one to chuck out there. Take care, guys.